Tattooing's a strange thing. It's always been seen as a little bit rock and roll. I mean, we're going back to people like Ed Hardy, Mike Malone, Sailor Jerry, and the differences between them. It had this edgy look to it. So that saturated into that culture a little bit. I always drew when I was a kid. It wasn't like a thing where one day I just started drawing. It was just one of the things that I found easiest at school. Going back to, 30 years ago, before iPads and all this kind of stuff, and before tablets and video games really, you would just sit and draw. Drawing became easy. So I draw as part of my job, and I got better at it that way, and that's what it is. There's 1,000,000,001 things out there that I'm not good at, but drawing's part of my job, so I've got to be good at it. I'd been working in a tattoo studio, and then it was a case of I kind of knew that my future wasn't going to be at that shop. I had this kind of core thing of what I wanted a tattoo studio to be like. This place was a sewing repair shop. It had been empty for about 2 years, and I just decided that this is what I wanted. And I had no idea at the time of how hard work it would be to set up a tattoo studio. I've built up this kind of infamy. I do have a certain amount of respect in the industry because I've been doing it for a long time. If you stick to your core beliefs and you keep plowing along, just the way that society works is that you're going to collect a lot of like-minded people around you that enjoy what you do and want to be part of it. What I hope to do is to keep pushing this idea of traditional techniques in modern tattooing. Keep working. Keep trying to do the best tattoos every single time. Every tattoo that I do, I look at it and I analyze it and I pull it apart and I think, right, next time I do a tattoo like this is how I want to do it. Tattooing now is bigger than it ever has been, and it's elevated tattooers into a different light. The television shows, with social media, everything has become really, really in the public eye. We made it so that now people get a glimpse inside what we do, a real hands-on look at everything from beginning to end, and it's made it a lot easier for people to dive into it and get involved. There's always this fear in the older generation of tattooers that it's a saturated industry. There isn't enough client base for the spread of tattooers that work. But the more popular it gets, the more people want to get tattooed. And then one thing I've started to see happening is that the younger tattooers want to get tattooed by the older tattooers because they want to learn how they do things, and the younger tattooers are all tattooing each other. So I would say a good 30% of my clients either are tattooers or they're involved in tattooing somehow. So it's an industry now that's started feeding itself as well. The younger generation of tattooers are all well-meaning, really ambitious young people who want to get involved in the industry and learn how to do things. But because there's so many of them, there's always going to be a portion of that group that don't want to pay attention and listen to the more boring, stricter stuff of how you have to do this, you should do this. They are playing more of an influence in tattooing now. We've got more tattooers working, we've got more tattoos being done, but somehow it feels like there's a dilution going on of the craft and the industry and the creativity. There's a saying in tattooing, real recognize real. But it's this huge, big beast now. So for the older guys like me and older, it can be a bit hard to kind of look at tattooing as a whole and recognize it for what it used to be. And the worry is that it's going to keep changing, and then we're going to end up with something completely different. It's a craft. You know, we make things sometimes. We cut our own springs for our machines. We learn the knowledge of the equipment that we use. We do something that's a little bit more than just fine art. I don't care who knows it, but the epitome of this is a guy called Sketch on a television show. I've had a few run-ins with him. To be honest with you, he knows nothing about the kit and craft that he does. But what he is he's a face that does a tattoo and then has an image that he presents to the media. And that's become so important to certain parts of tattooing. The real core tattooers, to the outside, may look rock and roll, but really what they are is they're a bunch of people minding their own business to one side that look a bit differently to most people. The whole rock and roll attitude of it, of partying and drinking and all that kind of thing, they're the guys who aren't getting it right yet. Like, I don't want to go out on a night and stagger around a bar and look shit-faced and bump into a client that I'm meant to be tattooing the next day for him to look at me and think, what the fuck am I doing booking him with this guy? I hope he's going to be okay to tattoo me tomorrow. Tattoos are kind of like a bit left field and a bit eccentric and a little bit rough around the edges and wild. And they will hang around with musicians and they will hang around with these kind of people, but it's not in the way that it's glamorized. It's a little bit piratey, it's a little bit gangster, it's a little bit subculture. Social media is really, really strange because you get this thing, Facebook, where you have friends. So people can add you and contact you. And for a long time, tattooers started using that to talk to clients and send artwork backwards and forward. And then Instagram pops up, and Instagram's got like this thing where you just put a picture up, people can follow you, so they can see more pictures, so people can get a genuine interest in what you do. It kind of started off where there was like 1,000 and then 5,000 and then gets like 10,000, and you think like, wow, 10,000 people like really like what I do. It's good in the sense, not just that people are liking my work, but that people can see their friends liking my work, and that's free advertising. The strange thing is that people look at that, and then they look at the pictures that you upload, the statuses that you put up, and they put those two things together. That's like a tiny part of my character. Get people I've never ever met write something stupid and sarcastic and funny, and they'll be writing things underneath it like, oh, that's so you. And I'm like, how the fuck do you know? You don't know anything about me. Being Instagram famous, it's meaningless. It doesn't pay my wages. I can only do so many tattoos a day. I was doing as many tattoos a day 10 years ago as I am now. Just that now there's a lot more people giving me a high five online for it. If an Instagram like was a pound coin, I'd be the happiest man in the world. You do two pieces of artwork that are different, more people like one kind of artwork, so then you move in that direction. But potentially the whole Insta-famous celebrity weird thing, I don't know, it's tiring. You feel a responsibility to the people who idolize you, so then they'll send you messages or they'll write you pictures. They write things that you feel like you have to respond to. They send you these big long messages, and you get a message like that, you can't ignore it. That would be rude. But then you get the saturation point of how many messages do you actually answer a day, and how do you decide who you reply to and who you don't. It's just this weird abstract thing. It's like having a pet or another child. I'm a dad with 2 kids. Before I had my kids, I was just free floating. As soon as I've got kids, I've got to pay for nursery, I've got to pay for school shoes, I've got to pay for holidays, I've got to take them places, birthdays, all these different things. And then it does something good to a tattooer to have that responsibility. If someone comes to my shop and they're talking about getting a tattoo, I'm going to make sure they get a tattoo, because that money that they've got in their pocket belongs to my kids. If they're going to walk up 3 flights of stairs and talk to a bunch of scary looking people in a shop they've never been in before about potentially getting a tattoo, then they've got a serious intent. And that's my life, is using what I love but doing it in a very, very, very professional way to help, well, to pay and give my kids the best life possible.